Hey there, friends. Welcome to Just the Gems. I'm Brandon, and you know, it's a new year, and I think that means it's time for a new me. That's right, no longer will I waste my days laying around the house doing nothing, eating garbage. I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to take care of my house. I'm going to clean. Oh, shoot. This is embarrassing. Just give me 1 minute. That's better. All right. I'm going to take advantage of this newfound joie de vivre, and I'm going to do a collection video. Specifically, we're going to take a look at my PlayStation Vita Collection. Now, it's one of my smaller collections, to be honest. I wish it were bigger, mostly because I just like those little cases. They look like little mini baby Blu-ray cases. That's just so cute. I don't know. Is that weird? That may be weird. But there are a ton of really great games on the Vita. And, you know, even when the same game is on the PlayStation 4 and the Vita, it's just more fun to have it on the Vita. I don't know. Does anybody else feel that way? You must feel that way. Somebody out there must feel that way, right? I'm not the only one. It's the cute cases. It's got to be. Well, before we begin, I just want to ask that you please like the video if you do indeed like it. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the sort of content I make. Oh, thank you so much. Now, without any further ado, let's get into my PlayStation Vita collection, starting with the Stack of Shame. Video games are great, aren't they? I love video games. So fun. Can you imagine being a pioneer and just having to, like, herd cattle and, like, churn butter and stuff all day? Live to the ripe old age of 35 and never get to play friggin' World of Final Fantasy? I can't imagine it. Anyway, let's dig in to this Stack of Shame. This is relatively small percentage-wise. I'm realizing, looking through my Vita games, I actually have played the majority of my Vita games, so cheers to me for that, I guess. Let's get into the shameful pile that I have not so much as touched. We'll start with World of Final Fantasy. Yeah, this is sealed. You can see that. This is billed as like a celebration of the Final Fantasy series, 30 years or whatever at the point that this came out. And I know very little about it. I know that you can stack characters on top of each other in what looks to be a very whimsical way. So props to that. That's a mechanic, I guess. And I have not felt super motivated to try this one out. I don't know what it is about this. I mean, it's Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy. I've been a Final Fantasy boy since the bygone days. But I just have not felt super motivated to crack into this one. I believe there's an enhanced version, Maxima or something, on the PlayStation 4. Maybe it's on the Switch. I don't know. I have to look into that. Maybe I will. I probably won't. Yeah, I don't know. This one is probably going to remain on the backlog for a long time. If companies one day stop producing video games and I make my way through these hundreds of unplayed games, I imagine this one will find a place near the end of my list, and I will get to it while everyone else is struggling through the future, post-apocalyptic world where there are no new video games. I will finally get to enjoy World of Final Fantasy. So, looking forward to that. Persona 4, Dancing All Night. Technically speaking, I have put this game into my Vita, and I've turned the Vita on, and I don't know, 45 minutes later, the game hadn't started. Like, I hadn't started dancing. And I'm a big fan of the Persona story, and I respect the kind of, you know, continuation of the story that they're going for here. Sort of visual novel style storytelling mechanics that they use. I enjoyed them in the Persona 4 Arena games, but for some reason, it just didn't hold me. So I'm counting this as unplayed since I didn't actually get to any gameplay parts of the game. Again, like 30 or 45 minutes in. I do eventually want to play this. I know that there was like a nice collector's edition with the 3 and 5. I included this digitally on the PS4. I kind of was interested in that. I don't believe that the Persona 3 and 5 dancing games have a robust story mode, which I would have appreciated, would have liked to see those characters interacting in some new stories. Maybe we'll get that one day. but I'm not holding my breath. I figure Atlas is probably pretty preoccupied with Persona 6 and whatever this fantasy game they're working on ends up being. So I do plan on getting to Persona 4 Dancing All Night at some point. We'll see how long it takes me. But, I mean, yeah, this is a dancing rhythm game, pressing buttons in time with the music. Never really been my genre. I'm a musician, so it's not like I have a hard time keeping rhythm with things, but it's just, I don't know. It's never really grabbed my attention as a genre. The only reason I got it was because it was Persona 4. So, yeah, this is on the list. I'm going to get to it. I promise. Exist Archive. So this is a Tri-Ace game. Tri-Ace makes fantastic JRPGs. I don't think that I've heard a ton of praise for this one. It could be that it just flew under the radar. I know that it's also on, I believe, PlayStation 4, so it got a wider release beyond just the Vita. It looks to be a side-scrolling sort of experience. I'm not the craziest about the side-scrolling JRPG thing. If my review of Astria Ascending is any indication of that. I did enjoy Child of Light, which I will get to. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, reading the back of the box, it sounds like a JRPG. One fateful day we were killed by God. Our story began as our lives ended. A group of young people with little in common but death come together in this modern fantasy RPG. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it would be up my alley in a very basic way. It doesn't seem like it's breaking any new ground, but I'll give it a shot. Ray Gigant. Gigant? Gigant? And I like it when they put the hiragana or the katakana on there so that I can at least like figure out how it's supposed to be pronounced, but this is not. Oh, it is. It's really tiny. Ray Gigant. Ray Gigant. Ray Gigant. There it is. So this is a first-person dungeon crawler JRPG. Looks like it has some visual novel elements baked in as well. This one, as you can see, is in a nice little clear protective case. It's unopened. I bought this off of eBay from somebody when I was really going hardcore collecting for the Vita. I was like, I'm going to get all the rare games. I'm going to get them now before they skyrocket in price. And I guess, I don't know, in retrospect, if that was a good idea or not. I'll show the value of this game as it exists today. This is really intriguing, looks very interesting, and I do think that I will bump this one up a little bit higher on my list. I sometimes just forget that I have it because, you know, again, these are sitting on my shelf. I've got so many new games coming out all the time that I'm picking up, and I really need to make some time for some of these older Vita games that are just sitting there collecting dust. Similarly, Conception 2, Children of the Seven Stars. I wonder if that's related to Mario's Seven Stars. Probably not, because I think you gotta make babies with some ladies here. So this seems like it would be a fairly pervy game just based on the premise. Defeat demons or monsters by mating with your classmates. So are these children that are having children? Children can't have children. I guess they're not literally mating in the sense that you're thinking. Check yourself. Scrub that dirty mind. They are bonding in some sort of magical way and creating star children. These star children are what you use in battle to fight the monsters. So I don't know. I saw this at a convention and it was reasonably priced and it looked like a weeby sort of JRPG. It's difficult to have a intellectual sounding conversation with somebody about it. Just put it that way. But I picked it up because it was cheap and it's a Vita game. So here it is. Silent Hill Book of Memories. This, from what I understand, is a pretty bad Silent Hill game. It's sort of a like 3/4 perspective dungeon crawler. I don't know if it would be most similar to like a Diablo sort of game, something like that. I really am a Silent Hill fan. Love Silent Hill. I'm super excited about all of the new stuff coming down the pipeline for Silent Hill. It always felt a little weird to me that I didn't have this because I'm a Vita lover, I'm a Silent Hill lover. There's a Silent Hill game exclusively on the Vita. Unfortunately, it's this one and not like something awesome, but I was able to pick it up online for a reasonable price, something that I didn't feel gross about paying. I know for a while, I'm pretty sure for a while this was really hard to come by for a reasonable price. I don't know if it's come back down or if I've just adjusted my thinking on what's an unreasonable price. That's very likely. But I picked it up. I think at some point I will put it in and try it out. Probably discover that I, in fact, do hate it and that it's very bad and put it away. But I now have given myself the opportunity to be disappointed by it. So, cheers. The Lost Child. I don't know a ton about this other than the fact that it's a first-person dungeon crawler, and it has something to do with El Shaddai, Ascension of the Metatron, which was a crazy, crazy PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 action game that I love, by the way. I don't know if you've played El Shaddai, but it's crazy. Satan's in it, and he's got like a cell phone and wears a leather jacket. It's a weird game. It's so weird. When I found out that this team or this creator was making a game that in some way referenced or connected to El Shaddai, I realized I needed to have it. So I have it. That does not mean that I've opened or played it, but I do have it. I think I've said before on this channel, I'm not a huge first-person dungeon crawler type of gamer, but I have actually been finding more and more I'm open to that style of game now, I guess more so than I was in my younger years. So yeah, I am looking forward to at least trying this out and seeing if it's going to be up my alley. And finally, Lost Dimension. This is a really actually pretty intriguing one. You're climbing a tower or something, and you have a party of characters, and every so often, every several floors or something, you have to determine which one of your party members has betrayed you. I don't really know the plot, so I don't know what might be leading them to betray you, but essentially you have to choose which of the characters you think has double-crossed you and eliminate them. And you always, of course, run the risk of eliminating the wrong person, which I assume is going to hurt you somewhere down the line. So, very interesting concept for a JRPG. I am, in fact, actually looking very forward to trying that one. So that one's pretty high on my Vita list, for sure. Like I said, that's it for the stack of shame. I can hardly believe it that I only have 7 Vita games that I haven't really played? That's weird, right? As a percentage, that's like a third. That's a fraction, 33%. 33%. But I guess that just gives me more to be proud of. Let's get to the pile of pride. Okay, pile of pride time. Just to clarify my terminology, when I say that I've played these games, I don't necessarily mean that I have finished them. A lot of these games I haven't, but I have given them more than a fair shake, we'll say. At least one of them I'm in the middle of playing, actually, and I do plan on finishing it, so I do consider these played games. So, here we go. Odin Sphere. Leaf Thrasier. This is another brilliant Vanillaware game. They do a really great job. I haven't played Dragon's Crown. Every YouTuber that I see talks about Dragon's Crown very fondly. How do I put this delicately? I'm grossed out by the character designs. Some of them. Like, weirded out on a very visceral level. So, I don't know if that makes me a bad person or what, but I don't see myself digging into Dragon's Crown. But Odin Sphere, obviously 13 Sentinels. Vanillaware makes fantastic games. And Odin Sphere is just top of the line, side-scrolling action RPG. The graphics are stunning. The story is very interesting. It's an all-around great package. I also have this one on the PS4. Got it as part of a bundle deal from some shady guy that I found on Facebook Marketplace who had very long fingernails. Meeting him at a shady gas station on the bad side of town. He had very long fingernails and he wanted cash. So do with that as you will. But really glad to have picked up Odin Sphere. Tearaway. This is Media Molecule doing what they do best, making quirky, interesting games that take advantage of the hardware. They did eventually port this game to the PS4 with some pretty significant changes because a lot of the gameplay mechanics in Tearaway revolve around the specialties of the Vita. So the touch screen on the front, the rear touchpad that nobody asked for and barely anybody utilized. It used all of these things to interesting effect in the gameplay. So it's a kind of a third-person action-adventure platformer type game. Not too dissimilar from Little Big Planet. I mean, it is, you know, it's like three-dimensional. You're not on a 2D plane, but similar in aesthetic to Little Big Planet. A lot of fun, really glad to have it. It feels like one of those things that if you have a Vita, you really should just have Tearaway, if for no other reason than as a showcase for all the stuff that the system could do that very few companies actually took advantage of. Insert Mortal Kombat screen. That's the stuff. So this is a copy of Mortal Kombat. I'm showing it in my collection video, but it is not my copy of Mortal Kombat. As you can see here, maybe it's signed by Ed Boon, one of the creators of Mortal Kombat. This belongs to my good friend Brendan, who worked on this game at NetherRealm several years ago. I don't know how many years it's been now. And he doesn't have a Vita himself. He's like, Brandon, you want to just like borrow this kind of indefinitely and just hold on to it since you can actually play it? And I said, hold on to a signed copy of Mortal Kombat on the Vita? Yes, I will do that. Thank you. So it's not technically part of my collection, but I am the caretaker of this game, and I have played it, and it is very good. And Ed Boon seems like a nice guy. You can tell by his signature, the way he makes that E. Seems like a friendly guy. Child of Light. This is, as I mentioned earlier in the video, a 2D side-scrolling JRPG. It's by Ubisoft. Ubisoft, by the way, is short for Ubiquitous Software. I don't know if a lot of people know that. Fun little piece of trivia. Busted out at a party. And it's a beautiful game. The hand-drawn style graphics are gorgeous. The music is beautiful. The writing is all in rhyming couplets, which is cute for like, I don't know, 5 minutes and then starts to get grating. So I really could probably have done without the poetry. When you try to, I don't know, when you try to force poetry, when you try to force rhyme into writing, it just, more often than not, the needs of the story outweigh the need to rhyme. And so the writer finds themselves twisting their writing to fit into a rhyme when it just doesn't make sense. I'm also noticing that I'm in the middle of playing Monster Hunter Stories right now on the 3DS, and the elder of the village you start out in speaks in rhyme, and it's, I don't know. Some of it's just not good. It's just not good. But anyway, neither here nor there. Really, really enjoyed Child of Light. Forgot it was a Ubisoft game. Like, nothing against Ubisoft. They make good games for what they do. I'm just not super into their whole thing, really. I enjoyed Assassin's Creed back in the day for a hot minute, and then I got tired of those pretty quick, so haven't really gone back. Yeah, I forgot it was a Ubisoft game until I got to the end and the credits were like 3 hours long, and then I was like, oh yeah, right, this is Ubisoft for sure. Very good game though, highly recommended. All right, we're gonna do these two together because they are related. We've got Virtue's Last Reward and Zero Time Dilemma. Part of the Zero Escape series, parts 2 and 3 to be specific. I love the Zero Escape series. It is far and away my favorite, I guess, visual novel, but really they're kind of like escape room puzzle games. The storytelling largely happens through a visual novel setup, but there's a lot more to the game than reading and making decisions about the story. You are actually solving puzzles. And the timeline mechanic that comes into play in this series, where you really do have to play the game through multiple times, but it doesn't feel, how do I put it? It doesn't feel repetitive to do so, and it's actually worked into the story of the game, the fact that you're having to play through it multiple times in its own kind of weird Uchikoshi sort of way. It makes sense, I guess, in the context of the world. It makes sense. So if you haven't played any of the Zero Escape games, please do pick up the Nonary games, which combines the first 2 titles into one, and then pick up Zero Time Dilemma. Fantastic end to the trilogy. Love those games. Love them. If you like AI, the Somnium Files, it's by the same guy. Just go nuts. Go get them. I'll do these two together as well. Why not? There's just more games here than I thought. I don't know. I called this small, but this is, I guess it is small in comparison to some other collections I have, and certainly some other YouTubers. But anyway, Ys. We've got Ys Origin and Ys Memories of Salsetta. What can you, I don't know, what can you even say about Ys at this point? They are just brilliant, wonderful action role-playing games. I'm particularly fond of the gameplay in Ys Origin. It feels very similar to the gameplay in Ys 6. It may have been that they were built on the same engine or a very similar engine. The gameplay systems in Ys Origin are just great. It feels like the feel of the combat. That's one thing that the Ys series has done such a good job of refining over the years. It just feels so good to play. Like you might be controlling a little sprite running around the screen, slashing at little pixelated monsters, but it has real weight to it. It has a real heft to it. It just feels good. And that's something that has continued on into the modern presentation of the Ys series. Really excited for Ys 10. I kind of wish that they were moving forward in the story instead of doing another prequel or midquel. I guess this one takes place maybe shortly after the first two Ys games. I'm thinking they said he was 17, 18, something like that. Doesn't matter. It's going to be great no matter what, but yeah, looking forward to that. I'm glad that the Ys series is continuing, that Falcom is really taking it seriously. There was a period of time there where it just kind of wasn't really being talked about, wasn't much happening with the Ys series. They're bringing it back in a big way, and very happy about that. Persona 4 Golden. Do I need to say anything about Persona 4 Golden? Is that something that is expected of somebody making a YouTube video in the year 2023? It's Persona 4 Golden. It's the epitome of Persona gameplay on the PlayStation Vita. It takes the PlayStation 2 game and just injects new life into it. It's the reason probably 70% of the people that have a Vita bought one in the first place to play Persona 4 Golden. It's one of the first games I picked up when I got my Vita, and I hadn't even played any other Persona games. It was my first one, but I just heard so many amazing things about it. The day-to-day, daily life sort of gameplay where you go to school, get a job, hang out with friends, coupled together with the dungeon crawling and the Persona fusion creation, the twisted murder mystery story. It's everything that makes a Persona game. And they really refined and nailed the formula in Persona 4. Deathmark. I'm in the middle of Deathmark right now. It is a very dark, visual, novel sort of game. You are essentially marked by some ghost, some evil demon ghost thing, and you have a certain amount of time to figure out, what the ghost is, what it wants, try to break the curse. There's actually multiple ghosts. You go through a whole process of like dealing with other people who have been similarly cursed, trying to get to the bottom of their situation. It's dark, twisted. The artwork is very eerie and appealing in a twisted way, right? It's not beautiful, but it's not supposed to be. And there's some interesting puzzle solving elements where to combat the ghosts, you have to really learn about the situation that you're in. You need to learn about the ghost or the person before they became the ghost, what their situation was, and find objects in your environment that you can use in such a way as to combat the ghost. And it has to be something that makes sense in the context of that ghost's story. I don't really know how to explain it better than that, but it is a cool like puzzly sort of gameplay system. Very worth checking out. I'm excited to finish it. I picked up, or rather I was gifted, the second game in the Spirit Hunter series, for Christmas, so looking forward to playing that one too. All right, we're gonna slam and jam through these two together as well, because they are Danganronpa 1 and 2. Trigger Happy Havoc and Goodbye Despair. I forgot the subtitle for a second. Danganronpa is just storytelling brilliance. It's crazy. It feels uniquely Japanese in a way that I have a hard time putting my finger on. Like, I didn't know that stories about teenagers killing each other was my aesthetic, but I guess it is. Do I need help? What does that say about me? I don't know. But it super is my aesthetic. The graphics are really splashy and flashy and cool. The blood is all pink for some reason. And it's just very cool. So the premise, if you're unfamiliar, a bunch of kids are trapped in a high school. They are completely locked in. There's no way out. There's an evil robot bear or something. Is it ever established that he's a robot? I would assume he's a robot. I don't know. even if they don't establish it. I've always assumed he was a robot. And he has basically set them up in this sort of game where they can be allowed their freedom if they murder one of their fellow classmates and get away with it. So basically they need to kill somebody and not get caught. And as soon as somebody dies, obviously everybody enters investigation mode trying to figure out who it is that committed the murder, because if they do get away with murder, everybody else except for the murderer is killed. So the stakes are always very high. It is just really great storytelling, high intensity, high drama. The first 2 games go really well together, and there was an anime sequel that kind of tied them together and kind of ended that story. And then Danganronpa V3 on the Vita, which I don't have. That one I believe is very expensive on the Vita, but I do have it on the PS4. Played it, also a fantastic game, but is it safe to say that that one is sort of in a different continuity? Sort of. It's complicated. You'd have to play it to really understand, but I think it's more or less safe to say that they are separate enough that these 2 games and the anime series sort of form a complete series in and of themselves. So, highly recommend Danganronpa if you are into visual novel type games, puzzle solving games, mystery games. Very good. Very, very good. Cosmic Star Heroine. This is one that I have played digitally. I picked it up through Limited Run, I believe. Yes, it was Limited Run. Because I wanted to have a physical copy. It's just a very, very cool game. It really captures the 16-bit aesthetic. A lot of games are doing that nowadays. Chained Echoes is one that I'm really looking forward to checking out. I'm hoping that that gets a physical release at some point, but I don't think I'm going to wait. It looks too good. Probably going to have to pick it up. And then obviously Sea of Stars coming out at some point this year. It's a burgeoning industry, recapturing that feeling of being 13 or whatever and sitting on the floor in front of the TV and playing a Super Nintendo game. I will pay good money for that feeling. So keep that in mind, developers. Cosmic Star Heroine is great. Science fiction, JRPG. You're framed and you've got to clear your name. You're a spy, and there's all sorts of cool stuff. The battle system is really unique. Borrows a lot from games like Chrono Trigger, which I'm always in the mood for. So very, very good. Cosmic Star Heroine. Oh, I should mention this one. I probably should have mentioned it with Danganronpa, but Ultra Despair Girls. Danganronpa, another episode. I love the titling of this stuff. So good. Ultra Despair Girls, Danganronpa, another episode. So this takes the Danganronpa world and story and turns it into a third-person, over-the-shoulder shooter kind of game, where you play as the younger sister of the protagonist of the first Danganronpa, and you're trapped in this war-torn city, and you have to shoot evil teddy bears, and it's really twisted, but it all connects. It's connected to the other games and to the anime. It's not the best third-person shooter I've ever played. I can say that pretty definitively. But I'm a big enough fan of the Danganronpa story that I was happy to play it anyway, because it really added a lot of richness to the world. So if you play Danganronpa and you do get into them, you might want to check out Ultra Despair Girls as well, because it does fit in quite nicely into that mythology. I believe it's also on PS4 if you are not a Vita person, so it's available for you to play. Freedom Wars. This is one, I feel like I don't hear a lot of people talk about this one, and it's kind of surprising to me, and it's sort of why I waited so long. I've had this game for a long time, and I didn't play it until just within the past year or so. And it's really cool. Like, honestly, I watch a lot of YouTube. I feel like I've never come across somebody talk about this game. Essentially, you are in a prison, and the way the prison system works in this world is you have to fight. I don't know if you're fighting like wars with these other prisons, or it's a little confusing, but you fight and that knocks time off your sentence. So you start with like, I don't know, like 1,000,000 years on your sentence, which is crazy. But you're able to knock time off of your sentence by engaging in ways that the prison wants you to. And you uncover some mysterious goings on, and there's a really intriguing plot that happens as well. I guess there was like an online component. I highly doubt that that's still in effect. But this is by Japan Studio. Like, this is, Sony's premier, like, game development studio. I did not realize when I bought this that this was by them. I might have picked it up sooner if I had. But yeah, it's very cool. I don't know what I would compare it to. I want to say Monster Hunter in terms of gameplay. I haven't played a ton of Monster Hunter. I reviewed Monster Hunter 3, the Switch port of Monster Hunter 3. So that's pretty much the only like traditional Monster Hunter game that I've played. Some elements of it reminded me of that a bit. So take that for what it's worth, but the plot is just very intriguing. So recommend that if you're into sci-fi, if you're into action role-playing. It's worth taking a look at. Corpse Party, Blood Drive. That's creepy, right? It's got blood in there in the title, and also corpse. It's never really felt like much of a party to me. I've played all these games. It's just not a very festive atmosphere happening. It's just a lot of death. But this is a sequel to the first two Corpse Party games. There's Corpse Party and then Book of Shadows, I believe, is the second one. It was on PSP. I played that one digitally because I don't think they ever released the PSP version over here physically, just digitally. Anyway, I played it on Vita, but it was not a physical game, so it's not here in this video. But love the Corpse Party games. Yeah, they're very twisted. There's a lot of horrific things that happen to these nice young people, and I love it, I guess. Again, what's wrong with me? But these are sort of, I don't know how I would explain them to somebody using common gaming terminology. I guess they're adventure games, sort of, maybe RPG-ish, but there's no combat. You're basically just moving through the story almost in a visual novel sort of way, but you have a little more physical control of your character than you typically do in a lot of visual novels. So I guess I would maybe say it's like an adventure game, but very basic, straightforward kind of adventure game, not a lot of deep, complex puzzles, anything like that. But the storyline is very interesting and very twisted and dark and nihilistic. I don't use that word a lot to describe video games, but I would say the Corpse Party games are particularly nihilistic. There's just no hope. And so you might want to be in a certain kind of mood to play the Corpse Party games. And if you're not the sort of person that finds yourself in that sort of mood ever, then probably avoid. But if you are occasionally in that sort of mood like I am, very good, very cool games. And finally, Tales of Hearts are. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I love the Tales of games. They are so much fun. They are the game series that got me into collecting. I had basically gotten rid of almost all of the video games I had ever owned, holding on to just a select few and buying the new games as they came out and then trading them in for the next new game that came out. I could once fit my entire video game collection in like a 2x2 box. It's ridiculous compared to all this nonsense now. And you can't even see it all. There's some over it. It doesn't matter. Point is, the Tales of series is what motivated me to discover that I enjoyed collecting games. I went out and purchased every collector's edition of every Tales game that I could. I haven't imported any. I don't think that I'm going to. I think Tales of Hearts R probably had a nice collector's edition in Japan. I don't think I'm going to do that, though. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. But I didn't expect a ton from this title, just because it was kind of the weird black sheep of the family on the Vita, and it wasn't fully localized, and by that I mean every other Tales of game that's come over to the West has a full dub in English, as you would expect a game being brought over here in the modern era to be. At least that's what I tend to expect. I know that's not always the case. I have thoughts about that. So it has, English text and Japanese voices. Very clearly they renamed the main character something that is definitely not what the characters are saying. That kind of threw me off for a little while. In terms of the plot and the gameplay, it actually, I would say it's like, I don't know, it might be in my top 5. It does some really interesting things with the combat. It's a more traditional 3D Tales of game. It's not super weird and new like Tales of Arise. and it's not the more hardcore style of gameplay that you might see in Zestiria or Grace's F, which I actually really like. Zestiria and Grace's F. I don't know if I'm in the minority there. I think I am. I think I'm probably in the minority there, but I do like those games quite a bit. This one's a little more traditional, more on the Symphonia, Vesperia side of things, which is fine. I like that style of battle too. Yeah, it really surprised me. It had some really good ideas, some things that did carry forward into the series as it went on. And I'm really glad that I was able to find it for a decent price. I haven't checked it in a while, but I know that, like a lot of Vita games, it was creeping up at the time. So glad I picked it up. Glad I was able to play through it and have it in my collection now, hopefully forever. So that is my PlayStation Vita collection. I can't believe it. We're back. We're doing collection videos. Can you believe it? It's the year 2023. I can't believe it. In my mind, it's still 1998, and it will always be. But that's my Vita collection. I would love to hear what some of your favorite Vita games are. If you've done a similar video, if you're a YouTuber yourself, you've done a Vita collection video, please drop a link in the comments so I can check it out, just in case I haven't already seen it. I would love to check out your collections. Once again, if you haven't already, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. Really appreciate it. And until next time, bye.